Macbeth is about to lose everything. His wife is losing her mind, his country has turned against him. The witch's prophecies are beginning to come true, and before this act is over, Macbeth will be dead. Act 5 is where every murder, every prophecy, and every terrible decision finally catches up with Macbeth. And let's break it down. Act 5 moves incredibly quickly. There's no more plotting, no more hesitation, and no more wondering whether Macbeth should become king. Now we're watching the consequences. Lady Macbeth's guilt will overwhelm her. Scotland turns against Macbeth. The prophecies begin coming true, and Malcolm's army marches towards Dunstane. Think of Act 5 as Shakespeare collecting every debt Macbeth has built up throughout the entire play. Scene 1. Think back to Act 1. Lady Macbeth seemed fearless. She called on spirits to make her cruel. She mocked Macbeth for hesitating. Now Shakespeare shows us what happened after those years of guilt. A doctor and gentlewoman secretly watch her sleepwalking through the castle, and what she reveals is devastating. While Lady Macbeth is falling apart inside, the castle itself, Scotland, on the outside is also falling apart. The nobles gather around Malcolm and discuss Macbeth's increasing violence. Notice how different this is from Act 1. Earlier, Macbeth was Scotland's hero. Now, even his own countrymen describe him as a tyrant. This is Shakespeare's message about kingship. A king earns loyalty, a tyrant demands obedience. And eventually, people will stop obeying. Macbeth has gained a crown, but has lost his country. Macbeth is surrounded by warning signs. An army is approaching. His supporters are abandoning him. His wife is mentally collapsing, yet he still believes he's safe. Why? Because he trusts the witches more than reality. Now Shakespeare starts proving Macbeth wrong. Malcolm orders every soldier to cut a branch from Birnam Wood and carry it to Dunstane. It's a clever military strategy, but it's also something much bigger. Remember the prophecy? Macbeth would not be defeated until Birnam Wood came to Dunstane. Macbeth thought that was impossible. Forests don't move. But Shakespeare loves showing us that the impossible often becomes possible when we've misunderstood something. The prophecy was true. Macbeth simply interpreted it incorrectly. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. This is one of the most famous speeches that Shakespeare ever wrote, and it's also one of the saddest. Macbeth learns that Lady Macbeth has died, and instead of reacting with grief, he reflects on how meaningless life feels. Think about everything Macbeth has sacrificed. His honour, his friendship, his peace of mind, his marriage, his humanity. And what has he gained? A crown? Yet, he still isn't happy. This speech is Shakespeare's warning that ambition without limits eventually destroys the person pursuing it. Then comes the moment when Macbeth finally starts doubting the witches. A messenger arrives and reports that Birnam Wood appears to be moving. For the first time, Macbeth realises he may have misunderstood the prophecies, and this introduces one of the most important ideas in the play, equivocation. The witches never actually lied. They used language with double meanings. They allowed Macbeth to hear exactly what he wants to hear, and now he's beginning to understand that. Everything in the play has been building towards this moment, the final battle. Malcolm's army throws down their branches and attacks. Macbeth's castle is surrounded. Justice is closing in. But what's fascinating is that Macbeth refuses to surrender. He keeps fighting. He even kills young Seward. And that's important because Shakespeare never turns Macbeth into a coward. Even after all his crimes, he remains brave. That's one reason many people see him as a tragic hero rather than a straightforward villain. And remember, in Act 1, we meet Macbeth as a brave and fierce warrior. And that's exactly what he shows on the battlefield here. Now we reach the confrontation the audience has been waiting for. Macduff and Macbeth finally come face to face. Macbeth still believes the prophecies protect him. No man born of woman can kill him. Then Macduff reveals the truth. He was delivered by caesarean section, and suddenly everything makes sense. The prophecy was true, just not in the way Macbeth imagined. In one moment, Macbeth's confidence disappears. His false sense of security collapses, and he realizes the witches have been manipulating him all along. The reign of Macbeth is over, and Scotland is about to be restored. Macbeth is given a choice from Macduff. Surrender and you can live, but you will be a prisoner. Or fight me and you will die. Macbeth chooses to fight to the very end. He could surrender, he could run. Instead, he dies as a warrior. In many ways, Shakespeare brings Macbeth full circle. He began the play on a battlefield, and he ends the play on a battlefield. The difference is that the first battle earned him honour and respect. The final battle is the consequence of losing it. With Macbeth dead, Malcolm becomes the true king. Order returns to Scotland. And Shakespeare reinforces one of the play's biggest messages. Good leadership creates peace. Tyranny creates chaos. Notice that almost every major theme comes together in Act 5. Guilt destroys Lady Macbeth, ambition destroys Macbeth, the prophecies come true, the supernatural reaches its conclusion, a rightful king is restored, and this is why Act 5 is such an important act for your exam. Almost every essay question can use evidence from Act 5 in some way. In your exam, I would recommend from the whole of Act 5 at least knowing these quotes. Out damned spots, Lady Macbeth for guilt. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow for ambition and despair. Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped for fate and prophecy, and by the grace of grace for kingship and restoration. These 4 quotes can be used for a huge range of essays. One of the biggest debates in Macbeth is whether Macbeth is a villain or a tragic hero, and the strongest answer to always argue for this question is both. Yes, Macbeth commits terrible crimes, but Shakespeare also shows us his guilt, his regret, his fear, his suffering. By the end of Act 5, we're not simply watching a villain fall, we're watching a human being destroyed by his own ambition and choices. And that's what makes Macbeth a tragic hero. If you remember nothing else from Act 5, remember these 5 ideas. Lady Macbeth is destroyed by guilt. Macbeth becomes completely isolated and abandoned. The witches' prophecies do come true. Macduff is the instrument of justice, and Malcolm restores order to Scotland. If you understand those 5 points, you understand the heart of Act 5. Act 5 completes Macbeth's journey from a respected hero to tragic tyrant. It's Shakespeare's warning about ambition, about power, about ignoring your conscience. The witches may have planted the seed, but Macbeth chose to let it grow. Good luck with your revision, and if you're moving onto a character analysis yet, the Macbeth character analysis video is the perfect place to continue.